And good morning, everyone. I am excited to officially open our 2022 EPSCoR PI meeting. As mentioned, I'm Sandra Richardson, head of our NSF EPSCoR program, and I'll share a bit more about myself later with you in this session. But I want to start by bringing you a very warm welcome. And sorry, I didn't realize my video wasn't showing, so hopefully you can see me now. Bringing you a very warm welcome on behalf of EPSCoR, and also thanking you for joining us for this year's PI meeting. This year's meeting theme is broadening the future of EPSCoR. I'm going to let that theme just kind of sit with you for a second. And it's really a powerful theme if you reflect on it, as I have been doing in preparation for this meeting. The theme, I expect for you to also see it threaded throughout our 4-day meeting. And so we're really looking forward to interacting with you this week and hearing your voice as we collectively work towards broadening the future of EPSCoR. Throughout the PI meeting, you are encouraged to engage with presenters using the question and answer option on your Zoom screen. And so if you have questions that you want to address during our respective sessions, feel free to enter the question in the Q&A box for the presenter. And I'm sure each presenter will share with you how they best prefer to answer questions. Also, I want to share as another means of housekeeping that all the slides from each of the sessions and the recordings will be available on the conference website within 2 weeks after the meeting. And lastly, know that all participants will receive a meeting evaluation at the end of the 4 days, and we certainly want to encourage you to offer feedback and consider completing the evaluation about your meeting experience. So again, I want to just say welcome, welcome, welcome. I cannot say that enough. It's exciting that this day is finally here. Some of you were likely a part of our last PI meeting, and others, for others, if you're like me, this is your first EPSCoR PI meeting, but regardless, we are glad that you're here. And I join you in looking forward to just a wonderful 4 days. I'm excited just thinking about the impacts of EPSCoR, and that's largely due to much of the work of our PI community. Our NSF director, Dr. Setharaman Panchanathan, frequently says, innovation anywhere, opportunity everywhere. And I want to kick this meeting off with that phrase because it reminds us that NSF is committed to ensuring that every part of the United States has an opportunity to advance STEM research and education. And EPSCoR in particular will continue to support the enhancement of our jurisdiction's research competitiveness through our investments in not only STEM capacity building, but also the development of STEM talent and local infrastructure. So it's just so wonderful to have a subset and a very large subset of our PI community and other stakeholders here with us today as we bring innovation anywhere and opportunity everywhere to the forefront. So before I get started, I'll do a quick roll call just to acknowledge our PIs. If we were in person, I would have you stand, but I'm going to interact with you as if you are. I can see you and that you are right in front of me, but I just want to call out and welcome all of our team members for our Track 1 projects, Track 2 colleagues, I see you, welcome. Track 4 PIs, co-PIs, senior personnel, all your team members, I see you as well. Everyone looking great, and just thank you for being here today. Also, good morning to my wonderful NSF colleagues and other EPSCoR friends that are here with us. So I am absolutely humbled to serve as the head of EPSCoR and to work with such an amazing, dedicated, and talented team. And you see our 2022 team here on the screen. You'll hear from many of them throughout the meeting. And additionally, you'll hear from our new Office of Integrative Activities head, Alicia Needler, immediately following me. I want to add a special thanks to our AAAS fellow, Kevin Cook, and our senior program analyst, Liz Lawrence, for their direct efforts in helping with many pre-PI meeting preparations. And I certainly also want to thank our very dedicated contractor team at Cyber Synergy for hosting this year's event. and working with our team to implement what we know will be an impactful 4 days. This year's meeting has a blend of different session types, and we'll go through the agenda later this morning. But I want to highlight that there are some breakout sessions where you are able to have more intimate conversations. And then also we're very fortunate to have some presentations from what I'll call some of our NSF VIPs. And so I hope that you're able to engage with us throughout the four meeting days. In my time with you this morning, my plan is to share with you a little more about me and some of my immediate priorities for EPSCoR under my leadership, highlight some of our program impacts, and then wrap up with a walkthrough of the meeting agenda and sharing some hot off the press news. I hope that I am able to reserve the last few minutes of my 30-minute slot with you to just engage in additional conversation and answer any specific questions you may have. But know that this is not the last time that you'll interact with me. I'll see you in other settings throughout the conference, and we'll have a chance to talk as well. I get really excited when I talk about EPSCoR, so time tends to go pretty quickly. So I'll jump right into it. Just as a means of introduction, I'll say that anyone can do a web search and find out general information about my professional background. So I'm just going to give you a very high-level Cliff Notes version here today. I am a mathematician and mathematics educator by training. I spent my pre-college years in the EPSCoR state of Alabama, where much of my career was really shaped based on my experiences there in very early education and lots of STEM outreach that happened early on in my life in Alabama. And then my professional pathway started with undergraduate school in the EPSCoR state of Louisiana. I went to Dillard University and graduated from Dillard and transitioned to Purdue University for graduate school in Indiana, and then later held faculty appointments in Texas and Virginia. And all of that really led me to coming to NSF and transitioning from a career in academia and mathematics departments and several leadership and administrative experiences in academia to serve the federal government. And in 2016, I joined NSF as a program officer in the Division of Undergraduate Education in the Education and Human Resources Directorate. And during my time in DUE and EHR, I served in many different roles, including the last role of serving as the acting deputy division director. And I mention all this to say that much of my work really has focused on building partnerships around a variety of institution types and working hard to facilitate institutional transformations and engaging all students and faculty in the undergraduate STEM enterprise. In February, I was very fortunate to transition to EPSCoR as the new section head. And so I think I'm about 3 months on the job now, but feel really integrated into the community. And I've had an opportunity to visit with some of our jurisdictions and looking forward to continue to visit with other jurisdictions. And I thank everyone for being so welcoming. In my NSF role in particular, I spent a great deal of time working with institutions to build their research capacity and portfolio of innovative and competitive NSF-funded research projects. And my intention is to certainly bring those experiences and best practices with me as I lead EPSCoR and use them to inform much of our future work. So in terms of my vision for EPSCoR's future, I'll start by saying that the program really has had monumental impact over the years in terms of its investments and strategies, but also in terms of moving the collective needle on increasing research competitiveness across our jurisdictions. But we all must be honest and recognize that there's still lots of work to be done. And this will always be the case because there's just a lot to do in our space. And so while EPSCoR has the very important responsibility of meeting program goals, we also have the good fortune, I'll call it, of funding meritorious research and projects to do the same. And as a result, I turn to my colleagues, to you, to PIs and co-PIs and senior personnel and all of our project leadership in terms of ensuring that the needed capacity building and research development is actually being done within the jurisdictions. And being ambassadors of this work and helping me with messaging and telling all of the community and everyone we talk with about the great work that EPSCoR is doing. So on this screen here, you'll see 5 priority areas for my tenure as section head of EPSCoR. And given time restraints and lots of other things that I want to talk with you about today, I'm just going to touch very briefly on each of these and have a plan to revisit them with you in many future discussions in large groups like this, and even smaller subgroups as I visit your jurisdictions. And so in terms of priority number 1, the theme of the conference, broaden the future of EPSCoR by, in particular, expanding opportunities for the research ecosystem. As you know, there are a number of ongoing engagements and activities and efforts that will impact aspects of EPSCoR's future. We have the ongoing Future of EPSCoR report, the GAL engagement, NSF leadership priorities, and the new strategic plan for NSF, the new learning agenda plan, and lots of other inputs. And so my priority number 1 is really to use these inputs to form and shape tomorrow's EPSCoR, with a focus on using our investment strategies to increase the depth of opportunities to foster research competitiveness within our jurisdictions. Priority number 2, assess EPSCoR's impact in developing, enhancing, managing, and optimizing jurisdictional research competitiveness. So beyond our prior program evaluations, the self-reported data from your external evaluations, and lots of quantitative data we have on outcomes and impacts within and across jurisdictions, my priority is to assess and evaluate EPSCoR impacts through evidence-based strategies and evaluations. And so I want us to look more at and explore what are EPSCoR impacts and what improvements could make the program more effective in its implementation. Again, going back to priority 1, we have several ongoing activities that will help with this, and additional evaluation will certainly be fruitful in carrying out an implementation plan. My goal is to position EPSCoR to anticipate the needs of the field while also carrying out our program's mission. Priority number 3, increase participation of diverse institution types and individuals in transforming EPSCoR jurisdictions. EPSCoR, of course, seeks to broaden direct participation of diverse individuals, institutions, and organizations. And to this end, we support activities that facilitate entry of women and others that are underrepresented traditionally in STEM, including persons with disability. But again, I want to underscore that this is not just an EPSCoR programmatic responsibility, it's also an EPSCoR awardee responsibility. And so providing opportunities to engage in STEM across all of these diverse types of individuals, institutions, and organizations is a priority for me in the next months and years to come. Priority number 4, utilize EPSCoR as a model to address research capacity building and broadening participation challenges. EPSCoR has scalable models and lessons learned that can definitely be used as a foundation for new NSF programs, or even a complement to many of our existing programs. And I'm talking beyond EPSCoR programs. So my goal is for us to use this knowledge base to forge new partnerships, both internally and externally, in addressing challenges, opportunities, and knowledge gaps in institutional transformation and in broadening participation. So for example, how do we create new pathways so that talent from every demographic and community can actually join the STEM community and STEM enterprise? We have best practices and models within EPSCoR that can help address this question agency-wide and even external to the agency. Priority number 5, enhance collaboration with EPSCoR and EPSCoR-like federal funding agencies and NSF-wide programs. And so many of you know that the EPSCoR program is represented across the federal sphere, and including many of our partners that we already engage with. And so I see lots of opportunity for future collaborations and opportunities to address some of these earlier challenges that I've previously discussed beyond just the NSF EPSCoR program. And I really am looking forward to building relationships and continuing partnerships that are already in existence with our federal partners. Here I'll use the term synchronized alignment to refer to how priorities across the federal administration, NSF, our Office of Integrative Activities, and EPSCoR are really perfectly aligned. The current administration's pillars are certainly launching points for action for NSF, and subsequently, they're launching points for OIA and for EPSCoR. We can look at each of the administration's 4 pillars and identify direct links and correspondences to the work that we are doing in EPSCoR, and more broadly that we're doing in OIA and NSF. I won't go through this whole schematic in great detail, but if time permits at the end, I want to come back and revisit it. For example, in terms of the pandemic recovery, EPSCoR launched its Bridging EPSCoR Community solicitation this year, which will support the creation of bridge programs in EPSCoR jurisdictions to support those that are most affected by the pandemic, including research trainees and graduate students and those at vulnerable career transition points. And again, those groups that we see traditionally underrepresented in STEM. And so we can see this pandemic response threaded from the administration's priorities through NSF priorities, OIA investments, and certainly EPSCoR. And we can do the same with each of the 4 pillars from the administration. I am fortunate to be able to visit with you again tomorrow, and I'll have a longer block, and I'll talk much more with you about the future of EPSCoR visioning activity, but we are also very fortunate to have the co-chairs of that committee with us who will give a much fuller presentation on Thursday. So I'm not going to say much here, but it would be a missed opportunity for me to not highlight the great work that the subcommittee has been engaged in, and not only the great work, but the input and the impact of the outcomes of that work in terms of looking at those 5 priorities that I just laid out. And so in particular, as we look at priority 1 in terms of broadening the future of EPSCoR, I anticipate certainly that the input from this visioning activity will be crucial in thinking through an implementation plan and working with the internal and external stakeholders to actually roll out that plan. So again, we'll revisit this and I'll talk much more with you about it later in the week. I'll also say in terms of the priority related to assessment and evaluation, I want to highlight that NSF will pursue several evidence-based building efforts over the next 4 years in response to our strategic plan that was recently released. And in March, we also released a learning agenda for 2022 to 2026. And as you can see on this slide, the 4 areas of the strategic plan map to 4 key guiding questions from the learning agenda. And EPSCoR is one of the call outs in the learning agenda. It's a publicly available document. I encourage you to peruse it in your copious free time, but specifically related to the question of how can NSF fuel transformative discoveries most efficiently. In exploring this question, a study will address how EPSCoR funding strategies contribute to increasing academic research competitiveness in its jurisdictions. EPSCoR is also part of 2 other priority areas in the learning agenda. One being how NSF can help grow STEM talent and opportunities for all Americans equitably. And 2, what outputs and outcomes are associated with NSF's partnership programs such as EPSCoR. And so again, as you reflect on the priorities that are shared on the prior screen, our learning agenda will certainly play a role in implementation of those priority areas. In terms of EPSCoR impacts, I won't spend a lot of time here, but I do want to just highlight that, as you know, there are currently 28 EPSCoR jurisdictions. And within these 28 jurisdictions, EPSCoR brings a wide range of talent and knowledge to the national science enterprise. And so I would be remiss if I didn't just take a moment just to let this sit with us. 18% of the total US population is from EPSCoR jurisdictions. 24% of the nation's accredited universities and colleges from EPSCoR jurisdictions. And then look at the percentage of our minority serving institutions that are housed within EPSCoR jurisdictions. Although many EPSCoR jurisdictions have small populations in comparison to non-EPSCoR jurisdictions, the population of groups traditionally underrepresented in STEM is much greater in many of our EPSCoR jurisdictions. Hence, link back to the importance of those priority areas that I shared with you on the earlier slide. This slide links our EPSCoR goals with programmatic outcomes in the past 5 years. I could go on and on about outcomes, but I'll just highlight just a couple here. You can see that EPSCoR has catalyzed the development of research capabilities and the creation of new knowledge through its support of over 7,000 faculty researchers and nearly 17,000 students in the past 5 years alone. I'll also point out that EPSCoR has co-funded 210 faculty early career development awards using our co-funding mechanism in the past 5 years. And this has certainly helped to establish sustainable STEM education, training, and professional development pathways through sparking the research careers of junior faculty. And there are other important highlights that you can see on the screen here as well. I want to take a moment and highlight some of our agenda items in the PI meeting agenda. But I'll first start by just saying, just take a couple seconds, not long, and think about what you see on this particular slide. So I'm just going to do a 5-minute count in my head. Okay, when I was talking with my younger niece earlier, she said, I see something dirty. And I'm just curious, if we walked around the room and said, what do you see? I think we all would see some different things. Did you focus on less significant things, or what is considered significant? We may not even have a general agreement on that. A city crew may see a faulty curve. A geoscientist may see an opportunity for studying earthquakes. A mathematician may see an opportunity to really explain how much space is needed to squeeze into the tightest position. And I'm sure each of you perhaps saw something really different. I share this example because I want to encourage you to bring somewhat of a similar perspective to our PI meeting in terms of we all may see things a little differently, but through collaboration and through talking and through exchanging of ideas, through identifying thought partners, all of those critical things, we learn from one another, and we're really able to push our own thinking, push our own projects, and push our own spaces and impacts within our own respective jurisdictions. So as we all look at the agenda or listen to the same session, even if we hear something or see something different, I expect us through conversations and engagements to be able to see other perspectives and often even merge ideas to result in a very refined product. So please ask questions during all the sessions. In breakout rooms, please engage with the presenters and even your fellow colleagues that are here with us for the PI meeting. And feel free to share with us and others your key takeaways by remembering to complete the meeting evaluation at the end of the week. So some highlights for upcoming days. You can see that today is a really full day, but very critical and important day. So as I mentioned earlier, following me, Alicia will come and give updates from the Office of Integrative Activities perspective. And then you'll get a chance to hear from our wonderful EPSCoR team in terms of sharing program updates from the program officers. And then we're very fortunate to have a number of NSF staff external to EPSCoR to come and share information about broadening participation programs that many of you would likely be very interested in, and your work will situate nicely and align with efforts within those programs. So please go and talk with program officers outside of NSF EPSCoR about these efforts. We'll take a short lunch break, and then when we resume, our friends and wonderful colleagues from the Division of Grants and Agreements will join us for a more detailed discussion and updates related to awards and policies and procedures for our awards. And then we'll close out the day with the PD Council session. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We'll start at the same time, 10 a.m. Eastern, and I'll kick us off with EPSCoR updates, and I'll have a longer period of time with you then, and hope that all of you will come back and we'll have an opportunity for some additional conversation. And then following me, you'll see that Gene Feldman will come and give us some policy updates. And then after lunch, we will continue with other updates. And then most importantly, I want to highlight that at the end of the day, on this particular day, we are fortunate to have the assistant director of our brand new directorate that I'll tell you a little bit more about in my updates tomorrow morning. He will be here to join us to tell you more about the new TIP directorate. And then on Wednesday, again, you can see another fully packed day. We'll kick off the morning with a discussion around our ETAP portal, and then EPSCoR team and colleagues outside of EPSCoR will have some roundtables based on the respective tracks. And so I encourage you to visit the roundtable that's most applicable to you and your research and your interests. And then after lunch, we will again have friends and colleagues from throughout NSF to join you to talk about pathways beyond EPSCoR. And so just as a plug, when we're talking about success of jurisdictions, anytime I get the mic, I try to say, let's think beyond graduation. That's not the metric for success that I want us all to be thinking towards. And another metric of success is your activity and your engagement with other parts of NSF and other funding opportunities. So please come and engage with our colleagues in this Wednesday afternoon session about funding opportunities outside of EPSCoR. And then lastly, as many of you may know, there are some changes coming with research.gov, and we'll have a representative here to talk in greater detail with you about those changes. And then on Thursday, the last day of the conference, our subcommittee chairs for the future of EPSCoR will be here to spend the first part of the morning with you in two separate sessions. This will be certainly a session you do not want to miss, and so I will not steal their thunder, but I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation and engaging with them as well in the workshop. And then later that afternoon, you'll have that Ask an NSF Program Officer session, again, where you'll be able to engage with our program officer team. And I'll say we'll close out with hearing from our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Karen Marangel, who is just really a very thoughtful leader. And so I think you will enjoy hearing from her and having an opportunity to engage in conversation with her as well. And then we'll close out the conference with just some general information about the national upcoming conference in November. So in 1 minute or less, I will share that a few hot off the press news items. One is we are very excited that we have launched our new website, same web link, but some content is reorganized, some new information added. And so I encourage you, again, in your leisure time or for EPSCoR needs, that you visit our new website, nsf.gov/EPSCoR, and know that we'll be rolling out additional add-ons to the website as time permits. And then I am very excited to announce our new fiscal year 22 Research Infrastructure Improvement Track 1 Awards. Congratulations to our 5 new awardees. This is indeed hot off the press news. Awards were made this morning. And so we are thrilled to announce that Alabama, Hawaii, Kansas, Nevada, and Wyoming are our newest Track 1 awardee recipients, and you can see on the screen the titles of their project and the work that they're engaged in. So congratulations to all of you, and kudos. So I probably have a minute or less, and I will stop sharing my screen, and I'll check the Q&A portal. If anyone has a question that I can address in a minute, I'm happy to do so. If not, remember that we'll have a lot of opportunity to engage throughout the conference, and certainly in future opportunities as well, because I'm really interested in visiting with jurisdictions. So I'm going to do, I have very good wait time, but I think my colleague, Alicia Needler, is here. And so I'm going to just do a quick transition to Alicia. Alicia joined us in August 2021 as our new section head in the Office of Integrative Activities. She will talk much more with you about her background and set of experiences and the wealth of knowledge that she brings to EPSCoR. And so, Alicia, I will turn the virtual mic over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that great initial presentation to start us off for the PI meeting. It's my pleasure to join you as well. I'm going to share my screen so that I can run through a few slides here. So I hope everyone can see the slides the right way. If not, I'll take any interjection to change it up. So thanks again for the opportunity to come and talk with you today. I am a long-time proponent, champion, and challenger within the EPSCoR community. Many of you listening, I hope you recognize my name, my face. I'm in a very different position now than I had been several years ago. I am now the head of the Office of Integrative Activities at NSF. And this office is, and I'll give a little bit more insight into the office in a minute, but this is the office that it takes the leadership for the EPSCoR program at NSF. So I'll give a little bit more information, but today I'm going to take a few minutes to also add some updates and some overviews and some context to EPSCoR, give a little insight into my thoughts around EPSCoR, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So queue up those questions, add them to the chat or the Q&A, and Sandra will join me again at the end of my presentation so that we can address any burning questions that you might have. So just very quickly, the overview of my presentation, I'm going to give a quick overview or introduction to myself, including some reflections, and then I'll give a bit of an NSF update, as well as some goals and opportunities that I see within the EPSCoR context, and then I hope we'll have time for questions. So very quickly, I just wanted to, as part of an introduction to myself, my career, which has primarily been in academic institutions, but has definitely been in the context of research. I have focused my work on building research capacity and competitiveness, whether that's with individual investigators as part of research development and helping them think long-term about their research programs and what it is that they need to be successful. It's also been building research capacity within institutions, across institutions. I have leveraged many networks and partnerships to create sustainable and resilient partnerships and programs, practices, and whatnot. I've had many, many partners. I have not done any of this alone. So I want to give a shout out to all those people who've worked with me for many years as well. Coming into NSF is a great opportunity for me to use the perspective that I've gained over my career to kind of put it in context about, well, what are we doing to build out our programs in ways that are effective, they are successful, they are sustainable, and how are we holding our investigators accountable, our institutions accountable, our communities accountable for this work. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of my presentation, but in general, what I've really tried to do is provide access and demonstrate broad inclusivity in the practices that I put in place and the actions that I take. I've also tried to strategically remove barriers and grow research programs and research practices with intention. I try to do this very strategically as opposed to what's the shiny object over here, or what should we be doing here? I'm really trying to think of this in a way that our director at NSF talks about in speed and scale, trying to make sure that we have the scaffolding and the foundation on which to grow. And the EPSCoR program is a perfect example of that, growing a foundation over time, not expecting instantaneous growth to happen. And then I like to think about all of the experiences that I've had, the opportunities and growth that I've had across my career is one in which I've accumulated great knowledge, accumulated wonderful networks and fabulous partnerships, and that every single one of my interactions, my opportunities to present, conversations, and so on, that none of this has been wasted. And I hope that you will see maybe even past conversations that we've had together, past interactions have really been part of how I'm seeing the path forward with EPSCoR, with OIA's activities at NSF, with all of NSF, broadening participation in particular, which is a part of what I do within the foundation. So I welcome direct outreach and direct conversations with PIs, with institutions. Please reach out to me. You know, we are federal employees, we're civil servants, we are people who want to engage with the populations that we serve, the research community that we serve. So please see me as having an open door for conversation, for outreach, and I look forward to future conversations with you as well. So let me give a little bit of context with within NSF, a few updates, a few bits and pieces that I think are really helpful in understanding how I like to think about EPSCoR's contributions and position within NSF. So very quickly, in case you're brand new to NSF, maybe you've never had this kind of conceptualization of NSF, I see NSF very much like a research university. So one that has a lot of layers and some hierarchy to it, but at the same time, there's a lot of points of intersection and collaboration. So we organize most of at least our interactions with the research community through directorates that are mostly disciplinarily organized. Within each one of those directorates, we have divisions. And so if you think of this in a university kind of structure, our directorates are like colleges, which are often organized by disciplines, and divisions are like departments or schools, so some unit underneath the college structure. We also have programs within our divisions, and those might be similar to research programs or projects that faculty and other investigators lead. We have the Office of the Director, which is like university leadership, and we also have university offices, or I'm sorry, we have NSF offices, which are very much like university offices. And within NSF, the Office of Integrative Activities sits within the Office of the Director. So we are part of the university leadership structure, and we're a kind of like a cross-cutting office, a cross-cutting unit. And so OIA was established in 1998, so we're almost 25 years old, to improve performance challenges facing NSF and improve operational efficiency. We still have quite a bit of that kind of characterization within OIA, but we are now very much a cross-cutting unit within NSF. We support multidisciplinary programs like EPSCoR, major research instrumentation, mid-scale research infrastructure, science and technology centers, growing convergence research, and the HBCU Excellence in Research program. So we have a lot of things that serve the foundation across all of the directorates. OIA also supports many activities within NSF, supporting its mission, like honorary awards, like the Alan T. Waterman Awards, which were just celebrated not just a week ago. We are key partners or key organizers around merit review processes, evaluation of that process. We turn out the Merit Review Digest every year, which is the National Science Board report on how we're doing with the merit review process at NSF. We have evaluation assessment programs and outcome. We assess the outcomes of many of NSF's programs within our evaluation assessment capability unit within OIA. And then we have a couple of cross-cutting advisory committees that serve the whole of the foundation, one of them being CEOS, the Committee for Equal Opportunities in Science and Engineering, and our advisory committee for environmental research and education. We're also one of the champions of broadening participation in underrepresented groups and under-resourced institutions in STEM. So we do a lot, and a lot of it just makes our work hit all of the different parts of NSF. So again, if you want to reach out and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what program within NSF I should be targeting. Here's my area of interest. Here's what I'm trying to do. I just don't know which way to go because it's a big organization, much like universities are big organizations. We are happy to help because we are very much your connection within the entire foundation. I also wanted to say that we're the primary steward of geographic diversity efforts within NSF, and that's important to EPSCoR. So I wanted to kind of quickly draw your attention to the fact that NSF, with our director coming in approximately 2 years ago this summer, that he stresses 3 pillars within NSF: strengthening established NSF programs, bringing the missing millions into the STEM workforce, which is our broadening participation type of activities, and accelerating partnerships. You should see all 3 of these things as being consistent core parts of EPSCoR as well. We also like to think about different priority areas within NSF, and across these 3 pillars, which represent each of the columns, we have multiple rows here of strategic areas such as climate and clean energy research, equity for underserved communities, programs and other opportunities, the discovery engine, which is, again, kind of captures the whole of NSF's portfolio of funding, emerging industries, research infrastructure, and then within NSF, we have our own organizational excellence that we strive for. We sort of have an acronym for this, of course, AOAM. And so this serves to make sure that we are serving the research community in excellent ways. We also have many, many, many guiding documents and many reports, but I wanted to draw these 3 to your attention. The first is a brand new strategic plan that covers 2022 to 2026, but this has recently been released. It's publicly available. You can go online and find it. But it has some really great insights as to what guides and drives a lot of our work. The National Science Board has its Vision 2030 document that's been around for a couple of years, and so that's publicly available, and that helps you see how our group that guides NSF, the National Science Board, puts out challenges and opportunities for NSF to align with various strategies that they've identified. And then finally, the budget request for the next fiscal year, fiscal 23, is publicly available. And this helps you see where we have put out our suggested priorities for the future of our spending. And so I'm going to share a little bit of insight into a couple of programs there, but you'll hear a lot about fiscal 23, I think, throughout the week. And then I wanted to share 2 other guiding documents that I think are really important for some of the work that I'll be talking about, but some of the things that I think are uniquely tied within EPSCoR. One is the latest report from the Committee on Equal Opportunities in Science and Engineering. And this report is its biennial report that's due to Congress every year or every other year. And this one's around bold leadership actions in broadening participation. So I encourage you to look at that report. There are features EPSCoR projects and features outcomes from EPSCoR, but it also has a great table, I think on page 47, which the committee has asked NSF to look at certain suggestions for bold leadership actions in the work that NSF does. So you might find ways to align with where NSF might be going with its bold leadership actions as a function of looking at this report. And then also a few years ago, NSF did a landscape study around partnerships. And some of that material has become part of the new directorate, the Technology Innovations and Partnerships Directorate. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to see, and again, this is a public report, where NSF looks for opportunities for partnership with organizations, institutions, industry, and so on. I think some of the insight that's part of the study could help you think about the language and approaches that you take with forging your own partnerships. So this could be a very helpful report to use as well. Sharing a little bit of data. This isn't EPSCoR specific. My next slide will be about EPSCoR, but generally this is looking across multiple fiscal years of funding with respect to competitive proposals, new awards, and funding rates. You'll see that over time, we've had a bit of a drop in proposals, and I do want to come back to that point a number of times. But the awards that we're able to make is really indicative of the consistency of the budget that we've had, and we continually ask for more funding, and Congress is looking to support us in that effort. I'll come back to that point here in a minute too, but in general, we keep our funding. We'd like to see our funding increase. We'd also like to see competitive proposals increase as well. In terms of EPSCoR support, this is broken down by directorate. And so I have the directorates there on the x-axis, and in the left figure is the proposals submitted in FY 21, or I'm sorry, FY 2012 and 21. So let me explain these graphs. So the blue bar and the orange bar are the difference between 2012 and 2021, so almost 10 years of proposals submitted from just to the directorate total. And so you have bio and size, education, human resources, engineering, geo, MPS, math and physical sciences, the office of the director, and social, behavioral, and economic sciences. So those are the blue and orange bars. That's the difference in proposals, just total to the directorate. And then the gray and yellow bars, the third and fourth bar there, are EPSCoR proposals. So you can see a pretty big difference between what's submitted just from EPSCoR jurisdictions compared to the total that's received in each one of these directorates. But you can also see in both instances for the total and for EPSCoR that the proposals have gone down. And we would like to see an increase in proposals. And so we would like to have conversations with you about, well, what is it that we can do to help see an increase in proposals? Then the diagram on the right is awards. And these are awards by directorate as well. And then the same kind of color scheme, 10-year time frame for the total, and then the EPSCoR jurisdiction. So in general, EPSCoR jurisdictions account for anywhere from 11 to 21% of the proposals, depending on the directorate, and 9 to 19% of the awards from directorates. So this is a great place to start a conversation about how it is that jurisdictions play a strong role in both the success of proposals submitted and the sustainability of those awards and how they grow from one award to the next. So a few new opportunities to draw attention to. So like I keep saying, we would like to see an increase in proposals. We'd love to reach 50,000 proposals. New competitive awards, we would like to see those increase, and that's a constant message to Congress in the appropriations that we would like to see an increase in our funding base so that we can issue new competitive awards. So this is what we'd like to do in FY23. We also have money put forward for funding fellowships and expanding fellowship programs. So this would be good news for undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs. And some of this work is happening within directorates, and then some of it is happening cross-cutting with the graduate research fellowship program that we expect in hopefully with increased funding, the stipend to increase by $3,000 to $37,000 per year for graduate research fellows. And it is the case that in EPSCoR jurisdictions, approximately 8% of the graduate research fellows come from EPSCoR jurisdictions. Now, part of that is based on the number of proposals that come in the door. So again, I want to encourage jurisdictions to play a role in increasing, especially with an increase in funding, increased proposals for the graduate research fellowship program. So now I want to turn very quickly to aligning EPSCoR goals with some opportunities. So to begin with, I just want to remind everyone, I think Sandra did a good job. We have this out online, that EPSCoR's vision and mission, but the goals are the things that I want to expand on here over the next several slides. So we have 5 goals that we tend to organize our thoughts around and our ways and strategies of growing. And so I'm going to come back to each one. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I wanted to put this out here for a reminder. And I also wanted to show very quickly that we have a lot of inputs into EPSCoR. And this is over time, not just last year or this year or anything that way. But if you start from the left, the lower left here, and we have the EPSCoR 2020 effort that happened in 2006, and then it continues around kind of organized by date, that we've had multiple conversations and reports and different analyses and everything that way. And we have the future of the NSF EPSCoR effort going on right now. So that report is expected out later on this year. We have a GAO report that we expect out as well. We have inputs from the EPSCoR Idea Foundation. We have conferences, we have this meeting, we have the national conference. There's so many inputs into EPSCoR. And so we have a lot of ways in which to think about EPSCoR, but I wanted to invite you to think about a few thoughts that I see when I think about EPSCoR, and given my background and my experience being part of an EPSCoR jurisdiction for well over 10 years. So the first one is aligned with the goal of research capability across and among jurisdictions. So hopefully you all are aware of, and if you're new to EPSCoR, welcome, but we have different program tracks that are part of EPSCoR. I'm not going to go through those. You're going to hear about a lot of that throughout the week and so on. But we have these program tracks that we organize to help build capacity, build research capability within EPSCoR jurisdictions. But also all of the directorates have programs that are relevant to EPSCoR jurisdictions. This map here is a sense of the FY21, not the most current awards, but the FY21 major research instrumentation awards and how they are distributed across the US. So I wanted to give a sense that, you know, we don't have a special MRI program for EPSCoR. EPSCoR jurisdictions compete very well in the regular MRI program. So I want to encourage you all to think about finding those funding opportunities that are scattered throughout the directorates. I know you do this already. We're just, again, pushing for more and more and more proposals to come in. So if you're not familiar with these programs, here's a link here so you can see where to search for funding opportunities. But again, I want to welcome your questions. If you are from an EPSCoR jurisdiction and you don't know where to go with your great idea, reach out to us help you. We want to leverage existing research and community partnerships for new opportunities. You're going to hear a lot of that kind of conversation throughout the week. But I want to kind of ask for you to do a thought question in your mind. What kind of research do you want to be doing? Are you able to do that within the EPSCoR program tracks that we have? Are you able to do that within the directorate research programs? And if you feel that you're not, then where are you going for that kind of funding? And if you're not able to get it, say at another federal agency or internally within your institution, what areas do you think we should be building out within NSF? And then also, what would a jurisdiction put forward in a proposal if it was just about the research? And when we talk about our program tracks, we have a lot of other things that we ask you to do within the jurisdictions as well. But if it was just a program about research, what is it that you would choose to focus on? Small pot of money, large pot of money? What is it that you would want to be spending time on? So those are just broad thought questions to keep in mind. So the next goal is establishing STEM professional development pathways. So again, we have our EPSCoR programs that do this. We also have directorates that have programs as well, but for STEM professional development, quite a lot of programs are located within the Education and Human Resources Directorate. And so there are new programs that are part of the FY23 request. They're also going to change their name pending approval. In the FY23 budget request, we put out there that the EHR, Education and Human Resources Directorate, will become the STEM Education Directorate, or the Directorate for STEM Education, and the new acronym will be EDU. So this is something that we hope will pass through in the process of appropriations and everything. There will also be a new renaming of the division, or into the Division of Equity for Excellence in STEM. And then other divisions will stay the same: graduate education, the undergraduate education, and research on learning in formal and informal settings. So if you're not very familiar with EHR, soon to become EDU, I encourage you to take a look at their programs and reach out for additional information. You're going to have a presentation on Wednesday from Cecilia Speroni, who's going to talk to you about the ETAP program. This is something I think you will really want to pay attention to. It's got some great tools, some great measurement and analysis capabilities for student participation in your programs. So I want you all, I hope that you'll be able to attend that session. But one of my thought questions for you in this context is, what is strategic about STEM professional development not just within the jurisdiction, but nationally. And how does EPSCoR play a role in this? Now, I have my own thoughts about how it plays a role, but I want you all to think about that collectively in your own jurisdictions, in your own programs. And this is something that will be part of what we'll be likely talking about in the future of NSF EPSCoR. The third goal that we have is broadening participation of diverse groups and institutions in STEM. EPSCoR is all about broadening participation, not just geographic diversity, but the programs within EPSCoR have supported broadening participation for decades. This is not a new thing for EPSCoR. And so we are a huge champion of broadening participation. And in fact, when the NSF Act was established, this is the language that came forward to say that, you know, the objective for the foundation, the National Science Foundation, is to strengthen science and engineering research potential and education at all levels throughout the United States. So we have embraced that within EPSCoR, and that's still part of the core of broadening participation. But now all directorates are fully engaged in broadening participation. And one question I would have for you is, are we succeeding in our efforts to broaden participation? Are you succeeding in your efforts? The CIOS reports serve as a guide and a sense of future directions. So I gave you the link there for the latest report. And if you're not very familiar with CIOS, I encourage you to be familiar, because they are the hosts of the subcommittee for the future of NSF EPSCoR. And then my thought question for you around this goal is, what is the jurisdiction's strategy, your jurisdiction, to partner and engage with minority serving institutions and or emerging research institutions within the jurisdiction? I think this will become important. I'm going to give you one quick insight into that here shortly. So the fourth goal is affecting engagement in STEM at national and global levels. You're going to, EPSCoR, we've had significant investments through the EPSCoR programs. We've had great diversity and range of topics. Our track ones never specify that it has to be in a particular area, but it is strategic, a priority area for the jurisdictions. Track two, we've had different types of programs that we've looked at over the last several years. Broadening participation, track three is now part of Includes, the Includes program. Track four has never specified necessarily a specific area, but it does encourage participation with NASA currently. And then we have this new program, Bridging EPSCoR Communities. And so this is an opportunity to really think about how we're gaining additional capacity with institutions and individuals who have not yet been assumed within EPSCoR as thoroughly as other institutions have. So we've been all about capacity building, and the opportunity here with EPSCoR and within NSF is how much we have learned from that experience. So my question here is, what should the takeaways be regarding EPSCoR's national and global engagement? Do we talk about this enough? Are we great about communicating this? And if not, how could we do better? And then finally, the fifth goal is impacting jurisdictional economic development. So as Sandra said, you're going to hear about the new directorate on Tuesday. There is expediting technology development in several areas. These are several areas, and I'm sure in the talk with Tip, you will hear more about each one of these areas. Regional innovation engines, there's a new broad agency announcement that's just been released. And so that if you're not familiar with this yet, I encourage you to check it out. But my question here within this goal is, what would EPSCoR jurisdictions put forward in a collaborative proposal if it was about economic development related to STEM, and just about that, not combined with research or part of a track one or something like that? So those were my 5 areas, the 5 goal areas, and some thought questions for you all. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to very quickly go through my last 2 areas. The first one is a new program that we hope to launch in FY23. It's called Granted, Growing Research Access for Nationally Transformative Equity and Diversity. It's meant to strengthen the nation's research enterprise, mitigating barriers to competitiveness, enhancing research capacity at emerging and underserved research institutions. And in FY23, it will focus on supporting minority serving institutions. This is going to focus on Funding available to enhance research administrative support and infrastructure, especially within institutions that don't have areas that are represented here in this emblem or in this infographic around research development, tech transfer, corporate relations, research policy, and so on. It will support research administration leadership and hope to partner with national and regional professional societies to do this kind of work. And then finally, as an investigator in an EPSCoR jurisdiction, I want to encourage you to generate new ideas and submit proposals. And again, investigators in EPSCoR jurisdictions submitted 33 fewer proposals in 2021 compared to 10 years prior. So we'd like to see more proposals come into NSF. There is legislative emphasis to provide more resources to EPSCoR jurisdictions, so more proposals make it easier to justify the need for more resources. I want to encourage you to propose or pursue resources to catalyze idea generation and broaden networks. We'd love to see more proposals for EPSCoR workshops. Conferences are part of the PAPPG. You can come up with ideas that don't have to just be in EPSCoR jurisdictions, and to propose research coordination networks. And then finally, we'd love for you to communicate with EPSCoR leadership, myself, Dr. Richardson, program directors, and colleagues in this great community that is EPSCoR. And I know I've run out of time, so thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for any quick questions or anything that might have come up in the chat.
I think, Alicia, we have to transition to the next one, presentation, but we can certainly respond to any questions in the Q&A in the actual platform.
I will do that.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being included in the program, and I look forward to the rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. I think we're ready now for our EPSCoR program updates. And thank you, Jean. I see you first. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. There should be some slides. I apologize for my voice. I have a cold. So once we get the slides going, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So I will give you just a very brief update on track 1. I have been serving as the lead for the competition itself, and Eric Lindquist is the lead for site visits and reverse site visits. Next slide. So we should have a new track 1 solicitation out soon. And this is what we expect. A letter of intent due mid to late July, full proposal due mid to late August, continuing $20 million for 5 years with 20% cost sharing. And the different thing this year is that we are including the planning grant opportunity for projects that are in their year 4. And so there we go. Okay, so this is based on the Dear Colleague letter that came out last fall. So if you want to preview, you can consult the Dear Colleague letter. Next slide. So again, continuing from our prior solicitation, the one that is currently out there, there is emphasis on research and capacity building. So this was the big change last year. Really, anywhere where we had said research in prior solicitations, we have now said research and capacity building. And we can talk about this more later, but we encourage proposals to really specify what is active research and what is building capacity in research. Next slide, please. With the planning grants, very pleased that we have our first cohort of planning grants. You can see the jurisdictions here, and we'd love to know how it's going for you. So just a reminder, there is going to be a roundtable on Wednesday and to talk about the planning grants. So we look forward to more discussion. Next slide. So these planning grants are $100,000 for 1 year. They're for jurisdictions that do not currently have an award and those jurisdictions with an active Track 1 award that is near completion. And the idea is either or. You can either submit a planning grant proposal or a full track 1 proposal in any year. The jurisdiction must pick the topic, the PI, and the lead institution for the new full proposal before the planning grant proposal may be submitted. In other words, this isn't a free-for-all. This is the jurisdiction's choice. Next slide. So in the Dear Colleague letter 22014, you'll see examples of the planning grant activities that may be undertaken with this funding. Next slide. So moving on to post-award, virtual reverse site visits. The reverse site visits scheduled for spring 2022 were run as virtual events. However, we still maintained the standard 2-day agenda. They were run synchronously using an NSF contractor with Zoom, and the RSV report and the follow-up protocol remained the same as before. And the format and the timing for 2023 is to be determined. Next slide. So for the site visits this year, our current policy at NSF is that all merit review panels must be conducted virtually through September 30th, 2022. So we will be holding the site visits virtually, those that are happening this fiscal year. For 2023, stay tuned for more information. Next slide. So again, here's our contact information, and we look forward to chatting with you more throughout the week. Next slide.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It is absolutely tremendous to be talking to you all today. My name is JD Swanson. I'm currently the lead for the EPSCoR RI Track 2 program, the Focused EPSCoR Collaborations. And hands down, this is my favorite program within EPSCoR. And I have to say that because I'm, of course, biased. Next slide, please. So the thing that becomes important about the vision for Track 2 is that this is one of NSF's first regional development programs, right? And so the idea of this, if I could put Track 2 in a nutshell, I would say that it's about building interjurisdictional collaborative networks. It is bringing you together to be greater than the sum of your parts, to find areas of excellence within a particular jurisdictional lab within a jurisdiction, and bring you together to be able to achieve things that you never would have been able to do before. What we've done is over the years is we've always focused this within NSF priorities. For example, we've done Industries of Tomorrow. We've had things on harnessing the data revolution, on genome to phenome, and so forth. And those have really been focused to be able to position you in a place to be competitive for new funding, right, within NSF. The second thing as well is that we really expect you within Track 2 to bring together the sum of its parts. That's the piece that's important, and developing that comprehensive and integrated vision that really drives discovery across that integrated team and across the region that you're working in within the science. And what we hope is that you really leverage all areas of diversity that are available to you. And we expect that, both among institutions, diversity, race, every way you can imagine. The other thing as well is that we always recognize within Track 2 that it's about the future, right? It's about those new early career faculty that are in there, and it's really helping you either create opportunities for leadership or creating opportunities for mentorship towards leadership as we think sort of beyond these awards, but into the 10-year, 20-year pipeline of leadership within your jurisdictions. Next slide, please. So a couple of updates from the FY21 competition. This was on it was at the time on a new topic called Advancing Research Towards Industries of the Future to Ensure Economic Growth for EPSCoR Jurisdictions. We were able to fund a record 13 awards for a total of $59 million. The success rate was in line with the NSF average. And out of that, we have 25 of our 28 jurisdictions involved. The other thing as well is we were allowed to do an additional opportunity to you, which was a DCL that allowed you to engage with additional minority serving institutions. And it was a huge success. We funded jurisdictions in... Sorry? Oh, what it did was it allowed us to fund 32 supplements across 19 RI Track 2 project networks. So it allowed you to engage with 32 additional opportunities to engage with MSIs. and that was huge. For the FY22 competition, it's again, it's along a similar theme as the year before, advancing research towards industries of tomorrow. Currently, it's under merit review. We hope to have the results out soon, so very, very soon. The other thing as well is work has started on the FY23 solicitation. What I am allowed to tell you is that we will be changing topics FY23, so it will not be on industries of the future. I'm allowed to say that, but nothing as to what the actual topic will be. But don't be afraid, if you sort of look at what NSF priorities are, quite often they can give you a little bit of a crystal ball. We're hoping to get the solicitation out early this summer. As I say, we've got to start on it much earlier this year. And so we hope to have it out and in the public domain pretty quickly. Next slide, please. So a couple of other things. We've also been working on a continuous improvement process for Track 2, recognizing that really the strength lies in creating these cohorts both horizontally and vertically within our team. Again, we engage as a Track 2 group amongst many, almost every single jurisdiction in EPSCoR. We have this wonderful thing, and getting you to move together as a group is really critical to ensure future pathways. And so we've really focused a lot on that. Some other things as well, knowing that many of you are emerging institutions, we've really focused on sort of connecting you up with not only the program officers, us on the programmatic side, but also creating direct links with the Division of Grants and Agreements. We also have started to include in our kickoff meetings team science components. We've also introduced, based on the success from Track 1, strategic planning guidance that allows you now to create the metrics for you to be able to express and connect your success for future proposals. The other thing as well is this year has been, in terms of annual reporting, we were no longer allowed to engage with ILI. And so what we've done is we've created a stopgap for this year. What we're doing now is we're working on currently a new NSF managed solution to this. This will be online soon. And if you're able to, please, 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 please come to the Track 2 roundtable from 11 to 12. We're going to be devoting about half of that session on actually receiving your input to what you think would be really useful in the centralized data collection. Now is the time to engage. For the other half, I'll be talking about some of the new sort of pathways that we've been thinking and experimenting on, and really talking to you about where you would like to go as groups beyond your RI Track 2 awards, and helping you engage with that. Next slide, please. And so that's it. If you have any questions, please never, ever, ever be fearful of contacting myself or the excellent Track 2 team, which is Jose Colom or also Eric Lindquist. So with that, thank you very much. I'm happy to talk with you. I'm excited to see you all at the 11 o'clock session on Wednesday. And other than that, have an awesome meeting, everybody. Thank you. Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. I'm unable to turn on the video. I'm not sure why, but my name is Jose Colon. I'm going to be giving you an update on the Track 4, and this presentation was prepared by my colleague, Dr. Whitley, which she was unable to attend during the day today. So next slide. So the EPSCoR Research Fellows is an opportunity for early career investigators to make extended collaborative visits to private, government, or academic host institutions. The budget is up to $300,000, and the maximum time is you can distribute that budget within 6 months and spread over 2 years. We have accepted proposals that are only for 3 months or 1 year. So basically, a good example will be that you want to distribute your 6 months of salary in 2 summers, 3 months and 3 months. The fellow will be able to, the fellow that is awarded with this award will learn how to new techniques from the host institution, benefit from access to state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, strengthen the collaborative partnerships with the host institution and their scientists, extend their research toward transformative directions. The fellowship experience are intended to benefit the recipient's career, and enhance the research capacity of their home institution and jurisdiction as well. The PI also is allowed to bring one trainee. This trainee could be an undergrad student, a grad student, or a postdoctorate. Next slide. The EPSCoR Research Fellow, or track 4, now features 2 tracks. The first track is what we call the NSF track. This is for, you can collaborate with any research institution within the United States, and it's any topics that NSF funds is eligible. The second track, which we started 2 years ago, is what we call the Fellows Advancing Science and Technology, or FAST. This is specifically in collaboration with NASA. These topics, of course, are then of interest of NASA and their research centers. If you see the solicitation, we have a detailed information about the centers that are participating in this year's competition. For this particular case, for the FAST track, we require specific institutions to be eligible, such as minority service institutions, also includes institutions that are primarily undergraduate, 2-year college, women college, and institution with these individuals and disabilities, this is very well in line with what Sandra mentioned about the integration in her presentation earlier. Next slide. Some statistic about the last year competition. For fiscal year 21, we have 34 awardees. There were 20 of the 28 EPSCoR jurisdictions were represented, and 27 institutions were also represented. For the future, we're gonna be evaluating if we want to continue FAST, depending on the response that we get for a 3rd year. We have the current solicitation has some improvement from previous year, or some clarification from previous year, which is basically the discussion of federal laboratory facility access. We noticed that in several of the proposals that we received, there's some collaboration with federal laboratories. These laboratories, some of them require additional proposals to be able to use their facilities. So we provided some more. We want some more clarification on that. It's in the solicitation. We also looking for the fellow to expand their research network. So we expect that there's some considerable or reasonable distance and duration of the fellowship of the fellow when it collaborates with the host institution. And we don't encourage the fellow to work with a prior graduate or postdoctoral advisor. There might be some special cases, but we want the fellow to expand, like I say before, their network beyond that. According to our solicitation, the next deadline is in April 11, 2023. Next slide, please. The contact information is NSF. If you want any details about track 4, you can contact me, or Dr. Whitley, or Subrata. Also for the FAST track, we have contacts at NASA EPSCoR. You can contact JP Compton, Ali, or Constance, and they'll be able to provide you with more information about how FAST works within NASA. This is not 100% guarantee, but we're planning to have a booth with NASA in the American Society of Engineering Education Annual Conference 2022. So look for us. This is in late June. And I think that's all I have. And I will leave you with Subrata for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Now I'm going to talk about the established program to stimulate competitive research workshop opportunities. So along with the EPSCoR tracks and the RIA BEC initiative, as advertised earlier, we also have the EPSCoR workshops, which fund across the STEM portfolio. This is to enable effective engagement and impact jurisdiction research and capacity building efforts. Next slide. As you can see, EPSCoR workshops are funded across interdisciplinary efforts. The goal is to strengthen collaboration, accelerate partnerships with the resources, as well as broadening participation of diverse groups and institutions in order to enhance access and inclusion. Next slide. If you are able to apply, please reach out to us. And we just wanted to give you a highlight of what the workshop entails and what can be funded. The idea is to bring communities of thought together to discuss recent research findings, explore topics in emerging areas, as well as foster innovative collaboration. As it is interdisciplinary, we rely on the jurisdiction to establish the tenet and the intellectual merit and the broader impact of the submission. We would also like the researchers to expose trainees and first-time PIs and new researchers across jurisdictions to establish research and educational tools and techniques to help them advance their careers for future submissions. This responds to the NSF EPSCoR call for workshops on specific topics. The anticipated award is a standard grant, and we estimate about 5 to 10 in a year. The funding limit varies from 25,000 to 100,000. And we have an anticipated funding amount of nearly 750,000 as noted in the solicitation. Next slide. So what constitutes a successful workshop? So the topic has to be compelling to and relevant to the STEM engagement and STEM research community. We definitely would like to see definite goals, desired outcomes, and anticipated products as part of the annual reporting. We definitely want you to make sure that groups who are underrepresented in STEMs at all levels are participating both in the participants as well as the steering committee, the leadership, the speakers, and participation. So we definitely want all level engagement from underrepresented communities to establish this broadening participation and engagement. Letters of support for key participants and collaborators are important. And of course, definitely, as all standard GAT submissions, well-described plan for communicating a workshop outcomes and dissemination is the key. Next slide. So I'll leave this slide up for a minute to understand what will not be submitted so that you can focus on that while you are preparing these submissions. And again, if you see this list, the whole idea is to make sure how we can broaden participation and provide that seed for collaboration and engagement to provide for the next step in funding. Next slide. Here is a timeline. There is no deadline for submission. The grants vary from 25 to 100,000. We would definitely strongly encourage you to submit a white paper so that it can be vetted by the NSF program. And then once that approval has come in place, you would be able to submit your full proposals. The idea is to make sure that the response to the submission happens in a period of 6 months. The target date of the workshop should be within 10 to 16 months in this, and there's a little flexibility in this timeline. Thank you. Next slide. Here is the contact information. I'm the lead for the program, and along with Andrea Johnson. Please feel free to reach out to us throughout this week for any questions or any comments you have in order to prepare, or any discussions you would need to prepare a workshop proposal.